When I was 4, my brother Leo and I accidentally fell into a pool. After we were rescued, Mom slapped me across the face. I told you to watch Leo. You almost killed him. Was it on purpose? From then on, if I ate one of Leo's candies, I'd be punished with no food. If I secretly played with his toy car, Mom would lock me in the basement. Dad initially tried to intervene, but Mom would just hug Leo tighter. She's the reason Leo is brain damaged. I can't let him suffer anymore. When I was 8, our neighbor, Mr. Peterson, tried to lure Leo into his house with a lollipop. I tried to protect Leo and got dragged in instead. When I returned home, covered in bruises, Mom kicked me to the ground. Lily, you've made Leo sickly and weak, and now you're running away? Can't you just give us a break? I wish I'd never had you. Dragging my bleeding body, I quietly dug out a red cloth pouch from deep inside the closet. Inside was the keepsake locket Mom had given me years ago, engraved with "May you live 100 years." I looked at it for a long time, then calmly swallowed it. Mom, I don't want to live 100 years anymore. I just want you to be happy forever. The locket was a bit big, and it got stuck in my throat, which was really uncomfortable. I swallowed hard and drank a lot of cold water from my cup. After a lot of effort, it finally went down with a gurgle. My stomach felt heavy, cold, and a little painful. Mom used to warn me about eating strange things, telling me stories about people swallowing gold to end their lives. I was a little scared, but also a little relieved. If I died, would the pain stop? Would my heart stop hurting? Mom pushed open the door and glared at me. Lily, what are you standing there for, dumbfounded? Come out and eat. Leo's hungry. Stop pretending to be pathetic. I followed her out, but my stomach felt worse and worse, like a big rock was stuck inside. I didn't want to make Mom angry, so I forced myself to eat a couple of bites. Dad saw how pale I looked and reached out to touch my forehead. Lily, why are you so white? Are you running a fever? But Mom slapped Dad's hand away, added a piece of meat to Leo's plate, and said coldly, "What could be wrong with her? She's clearly faking it, trying to get our attention. Ignore her, finish eating quickly, and take Leo for a walk." Leo sat beside Mom, grinning at me, holding the toy car Mom had just given him. The locket in my stomach seemed to shift, and I almost threw up. Mom saw me clutching my stomach, and her face darkened even more. Do you have any manners? Can't you even eat a meal without causing a scene? I forced a small, ingratiating smile and whispered, Mom, my stomach hurts. If you don't want to eat, get back to your room. Don't be an eyesore here. Dad opened his mouth, but in the end, he just sighed. Before leaving, Mom told Dad, have Mr. Peterson next door watch Lily for us. A warmth spread through my heart. Maybe Mom did care about me after all. But the next second, Mom looked at me impatiently. Don't let her cause any more trouble. Haven't we suffered enough because of her? She wasn't worried about me getting hurt alone at home. She was worried about me causing trouble. But I didn't like Mr. Peterson. He hurt me badly. Dad exchanged a few words with Mr. Peterson, who then walked over, smiling creepily. Lily, want to come to my place and watch cartoons? Mom said coldly from the side, behave yourself, don't cause us any trouble. I didn't dare to refuse anymore. Dad and Mom would be upset. My stomach ached terribly, and I curled up in the corner of the sofa. Mr. Peterson leaned in, wrapping his arm around me. Lily, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? His hand rubbed my back, and I shivered in fear.
I've seen it.
Mr. Peterson saw the cold sweat on my forehead, and his disgusting smile vanished. Damn it, don't you dare get sick here. Get back home now. He pulled me roughly off the sofa. My legs were wobbly, and he half-supported, half-dragged me back to our house. Mr. Peterson put me on the bed, haphazardly pulling the blanket over me, covering my head completely. His voice was particularly harsh. When your parents come back, just say you were too tired and fell asleep.
Got it.
Don't you dare say anything I did to you. Even if you did, no one would believe you. Actually, he didn't need to tell me. I wouldn't tell Mom and Dad anyway. Before, when stronger boys bullied me, Mom just said I was disobedient and misbehaved at such a young age. I bit down hard on my lip under the blanket, holding back my sobs. The blanket was thick, and I felt a bit breathless, but my body kept getting colder. Outside, I heard Mom and Dad bringing Leo home. Leo was giggling. Mom, I want a story. Mom's voice was so gentle, I hadn't heard it in such a long time. Okay, Mom will tell a story to her little prince. Their laughter sounded so nice, like Leo's favorite musical box. But Mom never let me touch that musical box. I heard Mr. Peterson in the living room, speaking in a hushed voice. Lily was tired from playing. She looked completely worn out, so I brought her back to sleep. Mom seemed to say, good, she's asleep. Saves me the annoyance of looking at her. Dad seemed to say something, and Mom raised her voice again. She's just a total curse. If only she had died instead, Leo wouldn't be like this. I couldn't hear the rest of the words. I was covered by the blanket, in complete darkness. My stomach hurt so much. Worse than when Mom hit me. There was a metallic taste in my throat too. Mom and Dad, I feel so bad. Gold doesn't taste good at all. If I fall asleep, will you come and see me? When morning came, my stomach didn't hurt anymore. That metallic taste in my throat was gone too. My body felt so light. I'd become a bubble, just like in Mom's fairy tales. I floated out of the blanket. It was so much fun. I could see my own little bed. The blanket was puffed up, and a small me was still lying inside. Mom pushed open the door, displeased. Lily, the sun's high, and you're still not up. You need to go to preschool. I waved at her from the ceiling. Mom, I'm up. I'm right here. But she couldn't hear me, couldn't see me. Mom's face was angry, glaring at the lumped-up blanket on the bed. Dad came too, sighing by the doorway. Let her sleep a bit longer. She seemed unwell yesterday. Mom turned and yelled at Dad. Unwell? She's just lazy, faking illness to avoid school. Look how well-behaved Leo is. He dressed himself already. Leo bounced to the door and shouted. Lily, the big lazy bug. I wanted to tell Leo the first wasn't a lazy bug. I didn't need to sleep now. But they couldn't see me, couldn't hear me talk. Mom angrily walked to the bed. I quickly floated down, wanting to hold her hand. But my hand passed right through her arm. She didn't pull back the blanket to look, still grumbling. Such a messy sleeper, wrapped up so tight. Mom took the empty water glass from my nightstand, snorting. All the water's gone, so she must be fine. I floated through the wall to the living room and saw Dad opening the door. Mr. Peterson poked his head in, asking, Where's Lily? She's quiet today. Mom poked her head out from the kitchen. She played too hard yesterday, can't even wake her up. Mr. Peterson seemed to let out a sigh of relief and quickly left. He must have been afraid I'd tell Mom and Dad about him hurting me. But I won't say anything now. The sunlight streamed in, but I couldn't feel its warmth anymore. My body felt continuously cold. In the living room, Mom and Dad were watching cartoons with Leo. I hovered by the doorframe, watching them. Dad glanced towards my room. Lily hasn't eaten all day. I'll go wake her up. Mom immediately cut him off. One missed meal won't kill her. She's just playing on your soft heart, trying to manipulate you. She's so manipulative at such a young age. Don't mind her. Let's see how long she can sleep. Leo mimicked Mom, waving his little hand. Lily, not good. No one came to check on me. Mom, I wasn't being bad. I really was awake. Look, I've been floating here for so long. It's just the me lying in bed. He doesn't seem to want to wake up anymore. In the afternoon, my friend Ethan from preschool came to find me. Ethan held up a transformer toy, shyly saying, Aunt Sarah, is Lily here? This is a gift Mom and I bought for her. Mom's face instantly changed, looking very upset. She blocked the doorway, not letting them in, her voice stiff. She's fine, just doesn't want to go to preschool, throwing a tantrum and faking illness at home. Ethan's mom, Mrs. Miller, looked a bit awkward, softly saying, Sarah, Lily seems quite well behaved to me. Ethan was bullied at preschool, and Lily even got hurt protecting him. Mom seemed provoked, her voice rising to a shriek. What do you know? She wishes she could destroy this whole family. Lily is a monster. She harmed Leo. If only she were half as easy to handle as other kids, would I be this exhausted? Ethan started crying, scared by her outburst. Mrs. Miller, her face unhappy, picked him up and left. Mom closed the door, her chest still heaving violently, mumbling repeatedly. She's not well behaved at all. You've all been tricked by her. I floated beside Mom, looking at her twisted face, feeling a little sad. Mom, I really wanted to be a good kid who made things easy for you. Dad came into the bedroom once, standing by the bed for a long time. He sighed, whispering, Lily, Dad knows you've been wronged. But your mom is almost having a breakdown because of Leo. She's suffering too. He tried to reach out and touch me, but his hand stopped midair, and he eventually pulled it back. Dad pulled a corner of my blanket up. You won't be sad if you're asleep. Dad will make your favorite fried eggs tomorrow. He turned and left, his back looking bent. Dad, I'm asleep now, and I'm not sad anymore. But it seems I won't be able to wait for tomorrow's fried eggs. Before going to sleep, Mom came in and glanced at me, complaining. I must owe you something. You were born to be a total curse. All day long she just sleeps. Even a cat or dog would bring some joy. She walked to the bed. How I wished she would anxiously touch my forehead, like when Leo had a fever, and pick me up. but she just poked my shoulder hard through the blanket. Lily, stop pretending. Get up now. I didn't react at all. Mom's brows furrowed tightly. So stubborn, huh? See if you can keep sleeping forever. Leo was startled by the sound of her forcefully closing the door and cried, saying he was scared. Mom walked past my room, holding Leo, gently humming a song. She used to hum that song to me too, back before Leo was born. She would rock me, telling me I was her little baby. But that was a long, long time ago, so long it felt like another lifetime. The next afternoon, I still hadn't gotten up. Mom started to get anxious. This brat, is she actually sick? She won't wake up no matter what I do. Dad also seemed a bit nervous. I'll go check on her. But Mom changed her mind again, stopping him. Check what? She's just faking it. If you go now, you'll be playing right into her hands. They thought I was throwing a silent tantrum. But Mom and Dad, I wasn't mad at you. I just couldn't wake up anymore. Today, the house felt a little different. Mom bought a beautiful cake with cute little animals on it. I remembered it was Leo's birthday today. It was my birthday too. Leo and I were born on the same day. Mom used to smile and say it was a bond between brothers. Later, she said I had a tough fate and I was a jinx to Leo. Lots of people came over, Grandpa and Grandma Smith, Grandpa and Grandma Johnson. They brought so many gifts, all for Leo. The newest Transformers, nice overalls. No one remembered it was my birthday today too. And no one asked, where's Lily? Leo, wearing his new clothes, ran around the living room like a little prince. Everyone was laughing, praising Leo for being cute and smart. Mom was smiling so happily, her eyes crinkling up. I started smiling too. That's good. Mom is finally happy. Grandpa Smith suddenly remembered something and asked, why haven't I seen Lily? Mom's smile vanished instantly, her tone becoming impatient. Don't mention her. She's throwing a tantrum in her room, hasn't gotten up or eaten for days, just deliberately trying to annoy us. On such a happy day, don't let her come out and spoil it. Grandma Smith sighed. That child, she's a bit stubborn. Then no one mentioned me again. When it was time to cut the cake, Leo loudly said, save a piece for Lily. Mom kissed Leo. Our little Leo is so kind, still thinking of Lily. She doesn't deserve Leo's birthday cake. Dad was silent for a moment, then stood up. Let's send a piece to her anyway. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. Mom glared at him. Don't you dare. She's using this as a protest, trying to make us coddle her. If we give in today, what will happen later? Dad looked at Mom's angry face and slowly sat back down. Outside, they were singing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. It was for Leo. The singing was so loud, it almost made me unable to sleep. Mom, look, I'm not being bad. I'm not protesting. I'm making things easy for you. I won't eat Leo's candy anymore, I won't play with his Transformer cars, and I won't make you angry. The cake was eaten, and the guests were about to leave. Leo ran to his room, hugging a pile of gifts. As he passed my door, he timidly walked to my bed. Lily, wake up and play with the toy car. Accidentally, the toy car rolled under my bed, and Leo burst into tears. Mom was the first to rush over. Lily, Leo was kindly trying to play with you, and you made him cry? How could you be so wicked? There, Leo. Don't cry. Mom will get it for you. She got down on the floor, reaching under the bed for the toy car. She found the toy, and also the red cloth pouch. Mom pulled it out. The red cloth was unfolded, and the keepsake locket was gone. On it, written in crooked pencil, were a few words. Mom and Dad, I'm sorry. She froze, then looked up at the small lump on the bed that hadn't moved for days. Mom's face instantly turned ashen, her voice trembling. Lily. The silence that followed was unlike any silence that had ever filled our house. It wasn't the quiet of a peaceful afternoon or the hush of a late night. It was a heavy, suffocating weight that pressed down on the bedroom, pushing the air out of the room. My mother stood frozen, her hand still clutching the red cloth pouch she had pulled from beneath the bed. The crooked pencil letters on the scrap of paper, Mom and Dad, I'm sorry, seemed to stare back at her. Lily, her voice was barely a whisper, a fragile thread of sound. She reached out, her fingers trembling as she finally did what she hadn't done in days. She pulled back the thick blanket. I hovered near the ceiling, watching. I wanted to tell her not to look, that she wouldn't like what she saw, but I had no voice left to give. Underneath the blanket, the little girl who used to try so hard to be good lay perfectly still. Her skin was the color of winter frost, her lips a faint, bruised blue. Her small hands were curled into tight fists, as if she had been holding onto something invisible in her sleep. For a long, Agonizing moment. My mother did not move. She stared at the quiet face on the pillow, her own face empty of expression. It was as if her mind was violently rejecting what her eyes were showing her. "Get up," she said, her voice rising, tinged with a desperate, familiar anger. "Lily, stop this. This isn't funny. Your grandparents are in the other room. Get up right now." She grabbed my cold shoulder and shook it, but the body didn't move the way a sleeping child's does. It was stiff, heavy, and completely unresponsive. When she let go, my shoulder fell back onto the mattress with a dull, hollow thud. The reality hit her like a physical blow. A high, strangled gasp escaped her throat. She stumbled backward, tripping over Leo's toy car, and hit the floor hard. The red pouch fell from her hand, the empty paper fluttering away. "Richard," she screamed. It wasn't the sharp, scolding voice she usually used. It was a sound of pure terror, a primal shriek that echoed through the hallways of our home. "Richard, come here. Help me." In the living room, the happy chatter of the birthday party instantly died. Footsteps came rushing down the hallway. My father burst through the door, his eyes wide with alarm, followed closely by my grandparents. "Sarah, what is it? What happened?" my father asked, rushing to her side. My mother could only point a shaking finger at the bed. Her jaw worked soundlessly, tears finally spilling over her eyelashes and cutting clean tracks through the heavy makeup she had worn for Leo's party. My father looked at the bed. The sight of my small, frozen body seemed to paralyze him. He slowly walked over, his face draining of all color. He reached out and touched my forehead. The coldness of my skin must have shocked him, because he pulled his hand back, instantly gasping. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He grabbed my wrist, searching for a pulse he would never find. He began to shake me, his movements frantic and clumsy. "Lily, Lily, wake up. Daddy's here. Please, sweetie, open your eyes." Grandmother Smith gasped, clutching her chest, and fell back against the doorframe, weeping. Grandpa Smith stood frozen, his eyes filled with horror and confusion. "Call an ambulance." My father roared, his voice cracking as he pulled my stiff body into his arms, desperately trying to warm me with his own body heat. "Call 911. Sarah, call them." But my mother couldn't move. She sat on the floor, staring at her own hands, rocking back and forth. "She was just faking it," she muttered, her voice cracking. "She was just trying to get attention. She always does this. She's just being bad." "Sarah, call the police." My father screamed again, his face twisted in a mask of grief and fury. From the doorway, little Leo stood holding his new birthday toy, watching the chaos with wide, uncomprehending eyes. "Mommy, why is Lily sleeping so hard? Is she not coming to eat cake?" Nobody answered him. Within minutes, the quiet neighborhood was shattered by the wailing of sirens. Red and blue lights flashed against the walls of my bedroom, painting the ceiling in frantic, rhythmic colors. Paramedics rushed into the room carrying heavy bags, but the moment they laid hands on my cold body, their hurried movements slowed down. They exchanged grim, silent looks. One of them, a kind-faced man with tired eyes, gently placed his hand on my father's shoulder. "Sir," the paramedic said softly, "I'm so sorry. There's nothing we can do. She's been gone for some time." "No. Try something. Do CPR. Use the machine," my father begged, grabbing the paramedic's jacket. "She's only 8. She was just tired yesterday. She was just sleeping." "Sir, she's cold. Rigor mortis has already set in. She passed away last night, perhaps even earlier," the paramedic explained gently, though his voice held a deep, heavy sadness. My mother, who had been brought to her feet by my grandmother, suddenly let out a loud, hysterical laugh. "That's impossible. She drank water yesterday. The cup was empty. She was just playing a game to punish me." The paramedics looked at her, their expressions hardening. Soon, the police arrived. 2 officers in dark uniforms stood in the doorway, their eyes scanning the room, taking in the contrast between the brightly decorated living room down the hall, filled with birthday balloons and half-eaten cake, and the dark, cold bedroom where a child had died unnoticed. A detective arrived shortly after. Her name was Detective Miller, a tall woman with a sharp gaze and a calm, unreadable face. She began asking questions, her notebook open. "When was the last time anyone saw Lily active?" she asked, her voice quiet but firm. My father swallowed hard, his face buried in his hands. I saw her 2 days ago. She looked pale. I thought she was just tired. Sarah said she was just throwing a tantrum. Detective Miller turned her sharp eyes toward my mother. And you, Mrs. Smith? When did you last speak to your daughter? My mother shrank back, clutching Leo tightly against her chest. She was fine. She's always trying to make me look bad. She got into a fight at preschool. She was always causing trouble. She was just hiding under the blanket to annoy us. I told her to get up. I told her. You didn't check on her for 2 days? The detective asked. There was no anger in her voice, only a cold, professional curiosity that made my mother shiver.
She was protesting.
My mother screamed, her voice echoing through the house. You don't understand. She was a difficult child. She almost killed her brother. She's the reason Leo is like this. Detective Miller didn't argue. She just wrote something down in her notebook. I floated near the window, watching the detective's pen move. I wanted to tell the detective that my mother wasn't entirely wrong. I really was a jinx. I had tried so hard to be good, but everything I touched seemed to break. But as I watched my mother weep, not for me, but out of fear and anger, a strange feeling washed over me. The heavy, cold feeling in my ghostly stomach was gone, but in its place was a vast, empty space. They carried my body out of the house in a black bag. I followed them, floating through the air, leaving the house behind. I didn't want to stay in that dark room anymore. A few days passed, though time didn't mean much to me now.
I spent my days
floating around the sterile, brightly lit forensic laboratory where a kind man in a green scrub suit examined the body I used to live in. He was very gentle with me. He washed the dirt and bruises from my skin, his face grim as he documented every mark. Multiple contusions on the arms, back, and shoulders, he dictated into a microphone hanging from the ceiling. Consistent with blunt force trauma, varying in age. Some old, some very recent, likely within 48 hours of
death.
He then began the internal examination. I watched as he carefully opened my stomach. When his scalpel clicked against something hard, his eyebrows furrowed. He used a pair of silver tongs to reach inside and pull out a heavy, dark object. He rinsed it under the faucet, and the dull metal began to shine. It was the locket. The doctor gasped, his eyes widening as he looked at the engraving on the back. May you live 100 years. A foreign metallic object, the doctor whispered into the microphone, his voice shaking slightly. The cause of death appears to be internal perforation and acute peritonitis caused by the ingestion of a large, heavy metal locket. The blockage and subsequent damage to the digestive tract would have caused immense, agonizing pain over a period of many hours before septic shock set in. He paused, taking a deep breath to steady himself. Due to the size of the object, it is highly improbable that a child of this age would swallow it accidentally. Furthermore, the presence of severe, untreated abdominal trauma and the delay in seeking medical attention directly contributed to the fatal outcome. I looked at the locket resting in the silver tray. It looked so small now. I remembered how hard it had been to swallow, how the cold water had felt as I forced it down. I had thought it would make my mother happy. I had thought that if I died, she wouldn't have to look at her curse anymore. But as I watched the doctor document my pain, I realized something sad. My death hadn't made her happy at all. It had only brought the dark secrets of her house into the bright, unforgiving light. Back at the house, the police returned, but this time they brought more people. They sealed my bedroom with yellow tape. My father sat on the sofa, looking like a ghost himself. He hadn't shaved and his eyes were bloodshot and hollow. My mother sat in the kitchen, staring blankly at the wall, while Leo played quietly with his toy cars on the rug, confused by the lack of laughter in the house. There was a knock on the door. My father slowly got up to open it. Detective Miller stood on the porch, accompanied by 2 uniform officers. Her face was set in stone. Richard Smith, Sarah Smith, we need you to come down to the station for
questioning, she said.
The autopsy report has been finalized. My mother stood up, her voice trembling. What does it say? She had a heart condition, didn't she? It wasn't my fault. Your daughter died of internal injuries and poisoning from swallowing a heavy brass keepsake locket, Detective Miller said, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. An object she swallowed while left unattended, in severe pain, for over 48 hours. My father collapsed against the doorframe, a choked sob escaping his lips.
A locket?
She swallowed the locket. But that's not all. Detective Miller continued, her gaze shifting to the house next door. The medical examiner also found extensive physical trauma on Lily's
Body.
bruises and grip marks that do not match a fall or standard childhood injuries. Some of these injuries occurred very shortly before her death. My mother's eyes darted nervously. She was clumsy. She fell. She got into a fight with Mr. Peterson's dog. We spoke to the neighbors, Detective Miller said coldly, particularly Mr.
Peterson.
He seemed very eager to tell us that Lily was fine when he brought her home the day before she died. But we found something else. I floated past the officers, out onto the front porch. Next door, Mr. Peterson was standing by his window, peeking through the blinds. His face was pale, sweat glistening on his forehead. When he saw the police cars parked in our driveway, he pulled the blinds shut quickly. But he wasn't fast enough. 2 other police cruisers pulled up in front of Mr. Peterson's house. Several officers got out holding a search warrant. They walked up his steps and knocked heavily on his door. Police. Open up. I floated over the fence, passing through the walls of Mr. Peterson's house. The air inside smelled of stale cigarettes and sweet, cheap candy. Mr. Peterson was frantically packing a duffel bag in his bedroom, throwing clothes and money into it. He was shaking so hard he could barely zip it shut. No, 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 he muttered to himself. The kid is dead. She can't talk. They can't prove anything. But as the police kicked his front door open, Mr. Peterson froze. I hovered in the corner of his room, watching him. He couldn't see me, but for a second, he seemed to feel a sudden drop in the temperature. He shivered, looking around the empty room with wide, paranoid eyes. Lily, he whispered, his voice trembling. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The police rushed into the bedroom, tackling him to the floor before he could reach his bag. As they pressed his face into the carpet and cuffed his hands behind his back, Detective Miller walked in. Arthur Peterson, you are under arrest for the physical abuse and endangerment of a minor, pending further charges, she declared. They dragged him out of the house in handcuffs. The neighbors stood on their lawns, whispering and watching in shock. For the first time, the quiet, polite monster next door was exposed to the world. With Mr. Peterson arrested, the focus turned back to my parents. They were taken to the police station. I followed them into the cold, sterile interrogation rooms. My father sat opposite Detective Miller. He looked completely broken, his head bowed, tears dripping onto the metal table. I knew, my father whispered, his voice cracking with a pain that seemed to tear him apart from the inside. I knew something was wrong. I saw how pale she was. I saw the bruises. But Sarah always got so angry. She said I was taking Lily's side over Leo's. She made me feel like I was destroying the family if I doubted her. He slammed his fists onto the table, sobbing violently. I let her die. My little girl. She was only 8. She wanted me to save her, and I just turned away. I gave her fried eggs. I told her I'd make her favorite food, and she was already gone. Detective Miller looked at him with a mixture of pity and stern disapproval. Your inaction cost your daughter her life, Mr. Smith. You had a duty to protect her. I know, he wept. I'll never forgive myself. I deserve whatever happens to me. In the next room, my mother was not weeping out of guilt. She was pacing back and forth, her face tight with denial and anger. She did this on purpose, my mother shrieked at the officer questioning her. She swallowed that locket to punish me. She knew it would make me look bad. She's always been a spiteful child. She ruined my life when she was born, and now she's ruining it from the grave. The officer, a seasoned detective, looked at her with pure disgust. Mrs. Smith, your 8-year-old daughter swallowed a brass locket and lay dying in her bed for 2 days while you threw a birthday party in the next room. You ignored her cries for help. You refused to let your husband check on her, and you handed her over to a known predator because you found her annoying. You didn't just neglect her. You drove her to this. My mother froze. The word drove seemed to echo in the small room. No, she whispered, her voice suddenly losing its strength. No, I'm a good mother. I took care of Leo. Leo needs me. Leo is being placed in temporary foster care, the officer said coldly. And you are being charged with felony child abuse, extreme neglect resulting in death, and failure to provide medical care. For the first time, my mother seemed to realize that her world had completely collapsed. The perfect family she had tried so desperately to build by sacrificing me was gone. She fell to her knees, clutching her stomach, and let out a long, howling cry of
Despair.
I watched her from the corner of the room.
I thought I would feel happy seeing
Her finally understand, but I only felt a quiet sadness.
I had swallowed the
Locket because I wanted her to be happy forever. I had thought that without me, the curse would be lifted, and she would smile again. But my death hadn't saved anyone. It had only revealed the rot that had been there all along. Months passed. The trial was short but painful. The story of the little girl and the locket made the front pages of the newspapers. People left flowers, stuffed animals, and candles on the porch of our empty, quiet house. Mr. Peterson was sentenced to life in prison. My mother was sentenced to 20 years for her role in my death, and my father received a lesser sentence of 8 years for his failure to protect me. Leo was taken in by a kind, quiet family far away. They didn't know the dark history of our family. They only knew that Leo was a sweet boy who needed love and patience. I floated to his new home once to see him. He was playing in a bright garden, laughing as his new foster mother pushed him on a swing.
He
Looked happy. He looked safe. On the day the trial ended, I returned to our old house one last time. The house was empty now, the furniture covered in white sheets. The sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, casting long, quiet shadows on the floor. I floated into my bedroom. The police tape was gone, but the room was still, exactly as I had left it. The small bed, the empty water cup on the nightstand. I hovered over the bed, looking at the place where I used to sleep. I realized I didn't feel cold anymore. The heavy, dark weight that had pulled me down for so long was completely gone. My body felt as light as a feather, as pure as a bubble rising into the blue sky. I looked out the window. The sky was clear, and a gentle breeze was rustling the leaves of the oak tree in the yard. I didn't need to stay here anymore. I didn't need to make my mother love me, and I didn't need to protect Leo anymore. They were all on their own paths now, facing the consequences of the choices they had made. I took one last look at the empty house, then spread my invisible wings. I floated up, through the ceiling, through the roof, and into the warm, bright sunlight. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't hurting. I was finally free.